Those are pictures of statues being ripped down in Maryland and North Carolina, but could have been Seattle or Portland or San Francisco or really anywhere in this country, because it is happening everywhere. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, was asked recently about this. Is she for it? Here's what she said.
I don't care that much about statues.
Shouldn't that be done by shouldn't that be done by a commission or the city council, not a mob in the middle of the night throwing it into the harbor?
People will do what they do.
I don't care that much about statues. Should we care that much about statues? It's a question that Chris Bedford has thought a lot about. He's a senior editor at the Federalist. We're happy to have him on with us tonight. Chris, thanks so much for coming on. Why should we care about statues being toppled?
Because statues are always followed by people. Every time in history, Tucker, that we've seen statues taken down, from ancient Rome to France, where they started with symbols like a largely empty prison, and then they started attacking churches, to here in America, where they started with the statue of a Confederate soldier and quickly moved to some mob violence, to hanging statues in the streets, to pulling down our founders. Revolutionaries and mobs that go after the symbols of a civilization never just want to stop at a symbol. They're not just angry at a statue. They're angry at what it represents. What it represents is people, a civic society, this country, and they will not stop until their real blood is spilled in a targeted way.
I don't think that Nancy Pelosi is an intellectual, but I think she's intuitive. She's not stupid, and she's certainly tough, and she understands power. She must know that.
She knows that. She knows that her power is not currently threatened by these mobs. They're going after some of her enemies. But her power is broadly threatened because tearing down statues is all about power, just like almost this entire movement's been about, Tucker, as you've talked about numerous times. You have a society that is willing to defend itself, to build monuments. That's a society that believes in itself. A society that stops building monuments doesn't believe in itself anymore. And a society like ours, led by people like Pelosi, who actively cheer or watch as they're torn down, that society is on its death watch.
A couple in her state whom we interviewed on the show last night are facing hate crimes charges. Whether they're convicted or not is irrelevant. Once you've been charged with a hate crime, your life is over, as you know, for trying to return their street to blacktop because vandals put a BLM symbol on it. And they're facing a hate crime. So it's not as if symbols don't matter to the left. They matter very, very much. How disingenuous is it of her to pretend they don't matter?
Well, you know, Nancy Pelosi knows full well the history of Columbus. As an Italian-American, Columbus Day was first celebrated after a mass lynching of Italian men by an angry mob in a race attack. That's when Columbus Day was a one-off holiday. This country made a lot of progress against persecution of Italians, and celebrating Columbus as the person who discovered our country against great odds. The son of a weaver, as Ronald Reagan pointed out when he dedicated the statue in 1980. She knows that, and she's still discarded it, and that's called a hate crime, defending your street against vandals. But tearing down a symbol that was put up against hate, that's somehow okay. People do what people do.
Why aren't our leaders more tuned into this, and why aren't they more concerned about what follows the toppling of these statues?
I think they're just praying that the mob goes past them. I think they're afraid. A lot of them in Washington, D.C., who live in my neighborhood, when they came to our neighborhood to tear down a statue of Lincoln and a freed man, the people hid in their homes. People were upset. A couple neighbors came out. But that's where Congress and senators live, a lot of them. Or they live behind big walled-in places, and they hope that they won't be hurt. Just like we saw in Seattle when the mayor said that going to her house, now that was over the line, or going into the U.S. Capitol put state workers at risk. She wanted to hold the mob accountable for that. But physically attacking police officers, shooting people in the streets, and trying to lynch business owners, she felt protected from that. It was distant. They're just praying that they'll be last, and King Mob generally comes for everyone at the end.
It does, but unfortunately it starts with the weak, and that means ordinary people. And I'm not wishing for the harassment or injury of anybody, obviously, on either side. I mean that. I hate violence. On the other hand, if people are going to be inconvenienced, you'd hope it would be our leaders, because maybe they'd wake up a little bit.
As you pointed out, this is one of the only revolutions we've ever seen where the most powerful people in our society, Bank of America giving $1 billion to this, are targeting the weakest, the most vulnerable, and going after them for hate crimes. Just like when we saw Italians defending the Columbus statue in Philadelphia, the mayor brought the full force of the law down on them. But feigned lynchings and actual hangings from nooses of the statue we saw down in the South, and people being attacked, reporters being attacked, people we know being attacked, that's okay. Those are leaders that are afraid.
Yeah, a lot of people we know being attacked. Chris Chris Bedford, thanks so much for that perspective. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tucker.
Thank you.